Zoom can hear us. For everyone that would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to do that now.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
For everyone that would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll do that now. Sorry about the delay, guys. Yeah.
Sorry, let's restart the screen. Would you like to do it again?
Oh, I'm fine. We did it once.
Sorry about that.
I'll just wait one more minute for Jordan to call the meeting to order.
Sort of forgot when you restart the screen, it goes back to something with live sound.
All right. Are we live on YouTube and streaming live and everything?
Sure.
Perfect. All right. It's 7:04 p.m. Welcome to a regular meeting of the Silverton Board of Trustees on June 27th. And I call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis. Here. Trustee Cranker.
Here.
Trustee Harper.
Here.
Trustee Bierman.
Here.
Trustee George.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Here.
Mayor Furman.
Here.
All board members in attendance. Thank you.
Do we have any staff or board revisions to tonight's agenda?
Let's have any, Gloria, do you know any?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Gloria's participating via Zoom. She's a little under the weather. For everyone who's joining us, we just completed a work session with DHM Design that presented some initial conceptual plans for the base area of Kindle. And now we will go to our first item on tonight's agenda, which is public comment. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with in-person comment, then we'll move to Zoom comment. And please introduce yourself if you have comments tonight.
What are we commenting on?
If you have any comments right now, we'll also have a public comment period. Sure.
I've never been in person. Do I stand here?
Yes,
That's where I stand. All right, tell me when.
you're good to go.
All right, good evening, board and citizens of Silverton. My name is Jimmy Keene, and tonight I will be talking about one of the agenda items, which is allowing OHVs in the 4th of July parade. I have been traveling to Silverton every summer since 2014, and I moved here with my son 3 years ago. The last 6 years, I have participated in the parade with the other veterans in the very front of the parade group. More specifically, I have walked behind the half track with my Army uniform, 80 pounds of combat gear, and I pass out an American flag to every child that's in attendance. Immediately after the parade, it's kind of funny, I get emails, or not emails, on Facebook Messenger. Parents have found me and they send me a message with a picture of me handing their child a flag, and they said this was the most memorable and special moment of the entire parade for them. During the parade, I'm followed by a side-by-side. And in the side-by-side, it has over 300 pounds of candy. It has milk bones for all the dogs. And I have fixed 1,000 small American flags to the outside with duct tape and zip ties. And for those of you who have seen me, I literally run almost the entire route. I go from side of the street to side of the street, trying to make sure that no child is not given an American flag. I can carry 50 at a time. So when those 50 are gone, I run back to the side-by-side, I grab 50 more, and I do it again until we're done. In my opinion, allowing an OHV, I understand the vote that the town did, and I fully respect that. But allowing an OHV in the parade is no different than allowing other untagged vehicles in town in unnormal circumstances, such as the search and rescue untagged OHV. You have the fire department has an OHV that's in the parade. They have an untagged vintage fire truck. You have floats, and you have other things that aren't normally allowed on the streets. As long as these vehicles, in my opinion, are trailered to and from the parade staging area, are only on the parade route, directly back to the staging area, back on a trailer, back to your house, I really see no reason why OHV should not be allowed in the parade. So in summary, what I would like to highly encourage the board to do is tonight to vote yes in allowing OHVs to be part of our town's 4th of July parade. for this and in future years. I appreciate everyone's time and your openness to hear my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not sure if I should wait until the agenda item or make a comment now or
It's up to you. Which agenda item?
barter rezoning application.
Oh, let's do that one as that'll be part of the public hearing, so people can speak on behalf of that.
When that agenda item comes.
That way it'll be like part of the official record for that hearing.
So good.
Anybody else for opening public comment? How about on Zoom? Do we have any Zoom participants that would like to make a public comment? Doesn't look like it, so we'll go ahead and close our opening public comment and move on to the first item with a new business. 4A, consideration to approve the unbudgeted request for equipment and materials for public works. And I believe we've got John Seitz on to speak for that.
Good evening, trustees. I know some of you probably know Bill Simon is a long time Silverton resident, long time. And he's moving out of a warehouse and storage area down by the train depot. And he has a lot of material and equipment left over from his mine construction business back in the day. And that includes a couple of box trailers and a quantity of steel, structural steel. And I went down and took a look at it, discussed it with him, looked at his prices. Hopefully you had a chance to get into a little bit of detail with the documentation in the memo that I provided. But I think that this is an excellent opportunity, especially for the box trailers. Town is short of storage at this time, and this would be low-hanging fruit as far as storage goes. Stuff that we could move around. If we needed storage at a particular site, we could have a 30-foot box trailer move there with our loaders. We could use it this summer with the construction of Columbine Park. We may not need it for that, but I think that these are a good deal. And I would encourage you to consider purchasing these. Again, I'm bringing this to you because this is a purchase that is above $5,000 and not specifically budgeted for. But if you took a look at my memo, you'll see that I believe that our budget can absorb these expenses readily. The other thing, in addition to the trailers, was a quantity of steel. The town of Silverton Public Works Department goes through steel on and off. Steel's expensive. And the quantity of steel that he has for sale is about 40% off. It's actually precisely 40% off retail. So with that, I'll ask you if you have any questions or need more clarification, or if you would like to discuss that.
Thank you.
John, the second trailer that you have a photo of, it doesn't have wheels in the front. Is that we can still tow that around, or does that front chassis move back and forth?
Yes. We can get under the front end with a loader and we can back them around. I mean, it's not going to be like attaching it to the back of a pickup truck like you would a normal trailer, but we can get under it and anchor to it with a gin pole on a loader and take it off down the street. But I'm thinking that these trailers will probably be used for in a static state, more or less. They will be at the sewer plant most of the time. And we're going to need extra storage in the future when we do more work at the sewer plant as well. So this is, planning ahead for that. And then we can move them around down there because we don't know exactly what the footprint's going to be down there. And they could be fully loaded at that time as well.
Jim?
Thank you. Hi, John. I think this is a great purchase. I think this is great for your department and having available storage on wheels. My only question was with regards to the wheels themselves. The tires seem to be not in the best shape, and possibly the rims. Do we have to come up with additional funds to repair that and get these mobile?
That's a good question. The trailer that you're speaking of is the one that faces 10th Street, and you can see that it has a shredded tire. That one's on duals, and it's on a dual wheel chassis back there. And I'm confident that we can move it with minimal any extra expense. And worst case, we could drag it if we needed to. But we've also got some old semi tires that we might be able to put on there that aren't being used right now. We have options, but worst case scenario, we can just drag it or put it on a skid. But I think it'll move.
You're the man. Thank you, sir.
That my question is just that you know where they're going and you have the space to store them wherever they need to be. Store the storage.
Do we have a place for them? Is that the
Yeah, like
question?
you're thinking, like you've got the property and a good spot for these to go now currently, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Down at the sewer plant in the boneyard.
That's just
You're
where they'll
familiar.
head straight away.
That's where they'll go immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Seems like a good deal. I'll make a motion to.
Hold on 1 second. Tyler?
Tyler?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I've been down there with John, and we've looked through a lot of the stock and some of the other stuff down there, and it's all, it's been sitting inside these trailers. It's, it's all in great condition. We're getting an excellent price on it, and the storage is going to be a real big deal in the future. So I just wanted to say, I think it's a great idea that we get these and allow him to go down and pick that stuff up. And then we also help a longtime resident by, helping him clear out his yard a little bit. And I think it's a win-win-win.
Nice.
Back to you, Jordan.
All right. I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of the trailers and steel from Bill Simons / Alpine Mine Construction for up to $9,400.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis,
Yes.
trustee Crane,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Garrett,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, trustees.
Thanks, John.
Great. And perfect timing. It's 7:16. So our next item on our agenda is the rezoning application submitted by Wayne Barger. The purpose of the application is to obtain approval of a zoning change along the BP R2 boundary located at lots 13, 14, block 45 on the corner of 9th Street and Empire Street, Silverton. So since this is a public hearing, we have a pretty formal procedure. Typically, we'll get a quick overview by staff or the planning commission representative, and then you, Wayne, will have an opportunity to address the board, adding anything or saying whatever you'd like to substitute the application that we have in front of us. Then we will open up for public comment, and then we can have a Q&A if the board wants to have one, and then we close everything up, have a board discussion and a decision. And we do have Clayton on as well, which would be great if he could be, he's already a panelist. And we have someone from the
Community development.
perfect. Awesome. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy. For anyone who I've not had the opportunity to meet yet, I recently started working in the planning department and excited to be here. That being said, I was not here when this application was processed, so I'll do the best to summarize it. And then I'm going to hand it over to the applicant to add anything. So this application is for the rezoning of 2 lots located at 124 East 9th Street, lots 13 and 14 on block 45, located near the corner of 9th and Blair Street. This lot has an existing car wash on it. The applicants propose a low impact repair shop and on-site employee housing. The parcel of land is currently located on the edge of the business pedestrian district, but within the R2 district, despite the existing car wash. The application is a request for the parcel of land to be rezoned from the existing R2 district to the BP district with a limited overlay. And this limited overlay provides opportunity for stated conditions and performance standards on the property. These conditions and performance standards apply to the land and will continue to apply even after a change in ownership. So to ensure the proposed zoning and land uses are consistent with the vision and goals of the community, I've pulled a few items to note from the master plan. With that being said, we are almost finishing up our next master plan, but I still thought these were important to note. The future land use plan does not designate this property as being an area designated to allow light and industrial, flexible commercial, rather identifies this parcel as having flexibility to increase single family home density. The plan encourages economic growth and investment with town land use standards and procedures for businesses and organizations that are clear, predictable, and consistent from the onset of the application process. Concentrate development in areas where basic public services are available. Review and revise business pedestrian zone districts in Silverton to promote and enhance opportunities for mixed uses, including light industrial and downtown business district. And review Silverton's R2 zone district to ensure that maximum allowable building sizes and lot consolidation projects are not too large for residential neighborhood. So the Planning Commission met and they recommend the approval of this application with 12 considerations from the original staff report, which I believe you all have in your packet, but I can also quickly go over those if necessary. And then do people want me to go over those, or does everyone have those?
We all have
We have
those,
them.
but
Okay.
I think those will come up for discussion later on.
Yeah, so then just two quick things I wanted to add to those. One, in number 8, it says an occasional temporary on-street parking associated with proposed mechanic shop shall be limited. Occasionally temporary, I don't know if that can be defined, therefore I don't know if that's enforceable. But we do suggest that overnight parking restrictions for commercial uses, since I think that was the intent of the Planning Commission. And then number 11 looks at AMI for affordable housing, AMI being area medium income. That's typically 80% to 120% of AMI. So I would just note that I believe the Planning Commission meant 100% AMI in that point. And yeah, that's what I have, and I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah.
Right, Wayne.
So thanks for your time. So my intentions are just putting a small garage. It's going to be a 30, I believe, by 36 or 40 by 36. So from Blair Street, it's going to set back 14 feet from the sidewalk, where if someone's sitting a neighbor's yard, it should not obstruct their view or anything from that. And in that area where you're going to have trees and landscaping, it's going to look kind of like if you're sitting in front of somebody's house. That's the intentions. And it's going to be connected to the building, the car wash. It's just going to be connected to that. It is going to come up a lot higher. I would say probably 10 feet higher, because it is a 30-foot building. Just so, like, if I have somebody pull up, like say my rollback, and get in there safely without hitting a door or something like that. As far as noise go, we typically don't have a lot of noise because we use electrical tools. We don't use a lot of air impacts. It creates loud noises. We always work inside. It's going to be well insulated, as you probably know, because you live here in Silverton. So it's heavily insulated. Other than that, I don't feel like we're going to have any problems as far as parking. If a customer does, or we do have a customer's car over a certain period of time waiting on a part, I do have an impound lot. I can shift that car over there just so it's not sitting in an area for a long period of time. Only thing I can't prevent is if a customer calls me and they bring a car in the middle of the night when I'm not there. I can't prevent that. It's gonna happen. There's only one or two cars that may be there when I'm not there. If a customer drops it off after hours. There's no way, I don't think, for anybody to be able to move that car in or out if we're closed after business hours. I can't really control if just a tourist parks there. So I don't know how you would, I guess, address that if someone else parks there that I don't know about. If it's a car that belongs to me, I'll be more than happy to move it, or if we're working on it. Typically, it's there less than a couple of hours. We either put tires on it or something quick, kind of like a Jiffy Lube or something like that. It's just in and out and it's done. And most of the times we have delivered the cars back to the customer if they're someone who lives here full-time in town or staying in an Airbnb or something, we do take it back to them. Just for that reason, there's not a lot of cars around. So I think I think it's honestly a great thing and a great addition to that area. But if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask me anything.
Awesome. I think we go to public comment and then we'll.
Sure. I would like to finish with this though.
For sure.
I did a little research on my own. In a article in the newspaper from here. It's a newspaper that y'all use for y'all's official things. If you don't mind, can I pass it out? Sorry if it's not, it's kind of small because it's the only kind of printer I have. But it's the very top article states, there's 2 pages. Back in 2009, it was actually already changed to BP. And it passed unanimous by the town hall. So I don't know why records don't show that that's not there, but here is a record here. That's the very top one. So it should be already BP. Sorry if it's hard to read. And I have an email as well. I can forward it to whoever would like it.
Gotcha. Jim, before
And I just forwarded it.
Cool. Jim, before I go to you, could I just ask Clay a quick question? Do we do, just as a point of order, do we do Q&A now or do we go to public comment now and then come back to Q&A?
Mr. Mayor, I think you can handle that however you like. Whatever makes most sense for the hearing, I suppose.
Okay. Let's do Q&A now then, because Jim was going to say something and we can talk and then we can do public comment. Maybe that will even be more informed. Jim, go ahead.
No, my only comment was to ask for those of us attending in Zoom if we could get a copy, and Gloria took care of it.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Just hypothetically, the question I would have about the former zoning is sometimes there's like, we have a long list of potential conditions we could put on. If it transferred ownership, it could have been a condition to revert back to the prior zoning, and unless we have a copy of what that was, we're not exactly sure. But I guess that would be something I would recommend looking into if this didn't pass tonight. Sure. But that's first. Any trustee questions for Wayne?
I guess I was called like a small shop or a low impact shop, is how you referred to it in the application. What does that mean?
Low impact. I mean, we're not going to have a big semi pull up out there and back into my garage. Not a huge. It's small mechanics such as just oil changes, alternators, stuff like something that's fairly quick. That's what I was getting at earlier. It's not going to be a whole lot of cars because it's usually just like a Jiffy Lube. It's kind of a lube and go, just kind of in and out and stuff.
Not like a rebuild my transmission.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you for that clarification.
Jim, are you raising your hand? No.
Sorry, I'm reading, and it might have looked like I was. I'm trying to get to the rest of this article because I'm reminiscing about how great Mark Esper was. This is a great article, and some of the same arguments from 2009 are the same arguments from today. This is incredible. This is great. So no, I'm sorry. I was just thinking out loud. Sorry.
No worries. I'd had two more. Oh yeah, Dana, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious. I think, Wayne, I really liked your application here, and I just appreciate your sentiment of trying to make it fit in with the neighborhood and paying attention to the noise and the parking. I can tell that you're really sensitive about that. And so I really like what you're proposing. I think I just have a few questions or concerns about, again, changing the zoning and what that means for the future. And so what I hear you saying is like a light use repair shop, but if we allow, what's called a service station to be there, does that mean that in perpetuity a service station could be there? And what if there is one that is noisier and not as considerate as you are? How are the neighbors protected around some of the use that might happen in that spot if it's being rezoned? And I know our zoning is a bit goofy and we are working on our master plan, but we have a business automobile zone area. And so I'm just curious, why not keep some of these services there? So those were kind of my two questions. Is we do have a business automobile zone. And so is this use more appropriate for that area? And or how do we make sure that in the future, if there's an entity that is not quite as courteous and considerate and sensitive to the surrounding neighbors as you are, that we're still protecting the feel and the intent of that area? And that might be a question more for planning or for Clayton, but those were two questions I had.
And I believe that's where the limited would come in. If I'm limited to that noise, I'm sure it would carry over to the next tenant, say, whenever that may be. That's just the way I interpret the limited use. And as far as the other motor district or business or whatever district that is, I don't know of any place besides the Bearded Wanderer and I forget who has it now. It used to be Hugh Phillips' place on the corner there. That's really, and the gas station. That's the only three that I'm aware of, and they're not available. So that's to answer that question.
Yeah, we can add any conditions to this if you all would like, and those conditions will stay on the parcel of land as ownership of the property changes, if it ever were to change.
Well, just thinking that through, it creates, like if there's a garage built and if we had something built in where it automatically reverted back to R2, if Wayne transferred the property, then they can't use the thing that it's built for. So that becomes a problem too. So I think it would have to be something more like Dana was saying, where it has to do with like noise ordinance or other light use as opposed to heavy use. Tyler?
Yeah, I was on the planning commission, or I am on the planning commission rather, sorry. And Wayne's brought this to us twice before we recommended approval. But that's what one of the big hangups that we had in the planning commission meetings was making sure that if we did allow for a change in zoning now, that it would whatever changes that we allowed to be made, they would be limited, and all of these considerations would move with the parcel into the future. And so we did our best to make sure that that all of the conditions would stay with the property. the biggest question we had was enforcement, but then it was also pointed out to us that, you know, if for some reason Wayne did sell it and somebody else was doing something there that didn't fit within those conditions, we would certainly hear of it pretty quickly from the neighbors. And so we felt confident that the L would handle a lot of the questions moving into the future.
Great.
Tyler, Jim, is there anything else from the planning commission that you think is important to highlight as we consider this?
The other, I would point out, the reason that we considered it, I think, really is because it's already being used because the car wash is there, and because there's a bike shop right next to it, and because there's, you know, the gas station right across the street, so it sort of fits into that area. And then I realized that there was one letter that, in opposition, but then there was also there were several letters from the other neighbors that really supported this, and they certainly outnumbered the one neighbor that didn't support it. And I think that went a long way for me. I don't know, Jim, maybe you have, I think that helped sway the planning commission as well, but Jim, maybe you want to speak to that.
Thanks, T. You're absolutely correct. There were more letters of support than there were opposed. One of the things that stuck out when we were going through this process at the planning commission was the fact, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, there's a sneeze.
Well, bless you then. One of the things was that the building itself is already zoned BP, and this would just be an addition to that that existing structure. That was one of the points. The other one was that the Bargers were willing to listen to the adjacent neighbor that had a slight issue, and that was with regards to the side of the property, the side of the building, and they were willing to put up additional shrubbery and foliage to block that structure from the back into the sides. And that, to me, along with the other residents that were in favor of this, kind of gave it the thumbs up, and we moved it forward through the process.
I think this is great. I think it's really good. It's a well done application. It's a great plan. Businesses like these are really important to the community. I'm in support of what I'm seeing. I did have a question for you about, we received a memo from Community Planning Strategies, which is stepping in as our town's planning department. And they had a couple of revisions to the proposed 12 conditions. They actually reduced it down to 10. And I think that's what you were speaking to with the overnight parking. I was just wondering, like, had you seen the revised proposed conditions, and were those all okay other than the overnight parking issue that you noted?
I haven't seen those revisions. I just was going off of from the planning commissions, those seem like those were the most common question, was noise and parking.
Okay, I'll just run through them real quick so that we're all on the same page, because we don't want to approve something that you're not aware of the conditions being imposed on you. So in condition 6, they revised from the proposed structure footprint shall comply with R2 minimum lot setbacks to the subject parcel should comply with the R2 district minimum lot line setbacks and maximum height requirements. But it sounds like at 30 feet, you're already planning to be within that. And number 7 was the height requirement anyway. They just combined the two. And then they changed former number 8, now number 7, from any occasional temporary on-street parking associated with the proposed mechanic shop, ... to take out the words occasional temporary, which is what Lucy mentioned when she introduced. So it just says any on-street parking associated with the proposed mechanic shop shall be limited to a minimum of 2 client vehicles at any time. And they added a sentence that sounds like we might need to revise for the exceptional circumstances that you don't have control over, where a person drops off a car to say overnight parking associated with the proposed commercial uses on the property shall not be permitted. And it sounds like that may need an exception for when somebody else drops off a vehicle, and it would just be that they would need to be moved, you know, as soon as you become aware of it being there. Then they deleted the condition the applicant shall comply with all local, state, and federal regulations, because you have to do that anyway. So we don't need to make that a condition of approval. And then, like Lucy said at the beginning, they added number 100% before AMI and the requirements related to the housing, affordable housing. I believe that's all of the provisions that were made or suggested. Lucy, did I capture that pretty well? That seem all right?
Yes, yeah, that's accurate.
Cool. Jim?
Thank you, sir. One of the things that you just read about the parking was one of the things that we had discussed at the Planning Commission at great length. And the points that were discussed are the fact that the streets are public and their businesses are public, the residents are public. You can't limit parking to 1 to 2 without causing a greater upheaval. I know what we're trying to do here, but the fact of the matter is that Silverton streets are public streets, and they are truly public streets. So I do have, and this is the same point I made, and we had former trustees making that point during our Planning Commission meeting. I do want to stress again that our streets are public streets. They're public thoroughfares, they're public right of way. And I don't, sorry.
No, there's a bit of a delay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it.
So I was going to say, it sounds like it follows that you're saying that we probably don't have the authority to include that condition because the parking is public. So we can't limit somebody to 2 parking spots because it's already public.
Yeah, and one of the things we discussed, if you don't mind, you guys, if you don't mind, one of the things that we did discuss was, you know, as long as it's on a public street, if the car has its up-to-date registration, I don't think that we are, I'm not sure we were allowed to limit the parking. That's what we discussed in the Planning Commission.
Got it.
And maybe Clay could answer that for us. But yeah, we weren't sure in our meeting. We didn't have a representation there.
Well, before we go into like merits and pros and cons and full discussion, I intended that last one to be more of a question to make sure you were aware of the revised conditions that were proposed to us. Let's go now to public comment. This seems like an appropriate moment for that. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, trustees. Thanks for your time. I'm Walt Brown. I live in Durango, but my wife and I are owners and part-time residents at 921 Empire. So one of the neighbors. We're not sure about the pros and cons. That was news to us. We heard that there was a neighbor opposed and neighbors in support. So that's news to us. And but a couple of things before I even get started. I won't take up a lot of time, but I wanted to say thank you for doing what you do. It's not easy being an elected official these days. It never has been easy, and it's not getting any easier. So I appreciate that. Thank you for your service. And thank you for opportunity to have a chance in a public process. We sent an email last week. Did you guys have a chance to read that? Did you see this by any chance?
I didn't know, sorry.
Would you like?
Sure.
Thank you. Give it to you for your, and yeah, I don't need to rehash that stuff. We're just not sure if this proposed mechanic shop, small business is a good fit for this quiet historic neighborhood. And you know, there was some talk about it amongst yourselves already, but it does kind of open the door for the future. So it's an important decision to make about, you know, having this change, this shift continue to work its way into Empire Street. But whatever you guys decide, we support that. No, it's not it's an important decision, and we can live with whatever you guys come up with, and we appreciate your service in making those decisions. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please.
On the other half,
Thank you very much for hearing me. I, again, really appreciate participating in the process. And I'm Helen Mary Johnson. Right to him. And again, I get very long about this, but I'm trying not to. I've only met Wayne through this process. He seems like a great guy. The points that I wanted to make out is that Silverton is a historical landmark. The neighborhood is historical. The house that we have next to it is one of the oldest, in the 1800s out there. I think the Planning Commission was focused on, what 9th Street looks like, but I never heard them talking about what it looks like from the Empire Street point of view. If it does get approved, and I didn't check to see what the conditions would be on that. I know that we mentioned noise and smells. And also, I don't know that it was mentioned was timing, if there would be a restriction on when they could work. And then also, we have some concern about the design of the building. It's a pretty big roof. And he's talking about a 7-foot setback from our fence. And that's a lot of, I think that your regulations say that there has to be water management and snow management, not to affect the property next door. So I would like to know that the design of the structure is going to be such that we're not going to have to worry about that. Oh, and I'm sure I'm forgetting all kinds of things, but I'll get down now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, would you like to make a comment as well?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now we'll move to Zoom comments, or Zoom participant comments.
Hey, this is Melody Skinner. Gosh, you'd be surprised that I'm speaking, right? You've already touched a couple of things that I was thinking about during this presentation, and that is all parking in Silverton is public parking, and that's just the way it is. You can't limit it. The Triangle was a decades-long auto repair shop with a car wash. And the car wash business stayed in business all this time. I can't imagine that the zoning changed. So for this to come up is surprising to me, as it is a continued use. Expecting all repair work to happen only within the building is unrealistic if you've ever been near an auto shop, because somebody pulls up and they have an immediate problem and you want to go take a quick look. You may not be able to get it into your bay right now, but you still want to take a quick look and see if it's something that's easy fix or whatever. And I think that is expected of an auto body shop. And the other one you covered is a customer may park there thinking, I'll get it over there tonight so they have it first thing in the morning. And as I said before, all parking is public in Silverton. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody.
This is Helen Mary Johnson again. One of the questions I had was, are businesses allowed to use public parking for their own purposes? Okay, so that was a question there. And then the only other comment I had was that I'm not aware that it was rezoned in 2009. I know that the zoning that was originally done was done after the fact that that car wash was grandfathered in. And it does only take up half of the lot. And again, that's away from Empire Street. And it's been inactive during the winter time. And when we've been there in the summertime, it's not very active. So the kind of business is not the same as what he's proposing, as far as affecting the feel of Empire Street.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we may have more questions for you, Wayne, but
Yeah.
did you have anything else you wanted to say as a result of the public comment?
I think I stated earlier, the only thing I can't control is if somebody drops off a disabled vehicle that I'm aware of. I can't pull that inside. But if somebody pulls one like Melanie Skinner commented that they come up as disabled, I mean, or there's something just overnight or minor with it and I have to go out, I can't control that. I can only control something that's there for more of a couple hour repair, or overnight they limped it in or something, they went and got a hotel, or I can control that because I'm aware of it. The ones that I'm unaware of, I can't control that.
Todd?
I just wanted to provide some historical context. When the OHV rental companies first started in town, there was some dispute over parking and what parking was available. And I believe that use was restricted for business purposes to the frontage of their building. And the planning department may be able to give more accurate details as to how that was done, whether it be by ordinance or how it was executed. But I do recall, I believe it was limited to 3 spaces for rock pirates and 6 for San Juan backcountry.
Gotcha.
Just for context.
A question I have for Jim, Tyler, or Lucy. Did the planning commission discuss the design within the aesthetic design within the historic district, and also concerns about snow load and shedding? And I guess Wayne, you might know the answer to that as well.
Yes, it will shed. I think it's a 312 pitch, so it's not as aggressive like this. It will hold the snow load because that's within code, I think. I think it holds 150 or 210 pounds, I believe, off the top of my head. And it's set back 7 feet from the fence. I do have a skid steer that I can manage the snow in the wintertime. If I need to do that, or if it gets to, it looks like there's just a huge amount, then I do have removal, and there will be access there to remove this snow.
And then in terms of the aesthetic, did the planning commission impose specific requirements about the visual aesthetic matching?
No, I don't think they got into that topic too much because they were just talking about rezoning the property.
Tyler, Jim, anything to add there?
No, just what Wayne said was accurate. We were looking at it from a rezoning point of view. And then the one other thing I would add is one of the reasons that we recommended it again was it's a boundary adjustment. It's not a spot rezoning. So that's the only other thing I found in my notes. But we were looking at it almost from just the zoning rezoning application to start with.
Gotcha. So after this, there'll be a separate actual building application that goes through the planning commission in order to actually construct the structure and talk about all the specifics of the structure itself. This was, we were receiving kind of design plans for the purposes of conceptually understanding the rezoning application.
I did submit to Bill McDougall already, and he already approved the plans and the way the snow load and wind load and all of that, and the foundation as well.
Gotcha.
Can we ask questions again? Can we read?
Yeah.
Okay. Wayne, are you planning to be open year round?
Yes. In the wintertime, I have less mechanics just because of tourists.
Yeah.
Not as much summer activities. The backcountry is closed. So mostly during the wintertime, I run ahead to detail cars or, small things like that, just to kind of supplement the lack of tourism and stuff like that.
Sure.
So in the wintertime, it's not as much cars or traffic moving or anything like that. So.
Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, would we like to? Dana, was that an almost question?
Yeah, I'm just like noodling on this still because again, I really like what Wayne has proposed here, but I'm stuck on like, is how we define a low impact repair facility versus a high impact repair facility, and how are we supposed to know the difference in this instance for zoning and what we're actually approving? Because it seemed like a high impact repair facility was not necessarily allowable in this area, but a low impact repair facility could be. And so did that come up at all? And I don't know enough about this topic of repair to know the difference, or if that's something we have to worry about.
If I can, a high impact, just think of it as a car dealership. Amount of cars that come in and out all day long. That's all they do all day long. And you know how busy Durango Motors and the Toyota dealership, Morehart Murphy, those guys, they're very busy. That's more of a high impact because of volume.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thanks, Wayne.
Technically, we should be limiting public comment to this stuff before, but sure.
Is it a legal term? Is that a legal term?
Oh, high impact versus low impact? Oh, I don't know. Wait, do you know? Oh, Lucy.
Yeah, that is defined in the codes. And I can read that for you. Low impact repair shop means an enclosed building or portion, therefore, wherein products, equipment, and appliances or other machinery are repaired and from which no heat, vibration, or noise extends beyond the lot lines. And high impact repair shop refers to an enclosed building or portion, therefore, where products, equipment, appliances, or other machinery are repaired. So
Thank you.
a little vague, but
Wayne, is it practical that the noise won't go outside the property line?
Well, the acoustics here in Silverton are amazing. I can't take that away. I mean, you can walk down the street and hear somebody talk. Say how electric impact, how someone hears it from you or someone else. I can do the best I can to minimize that noise with on Blair Street. I have a door on Blair Street and a door on 9. I can keep that door shut to eliminate the noise from kind of going that direction.
Yeah, Wayne, that was actually a question I sort of hesitated on asking earlier is, I see the drawings, but can you just give us kind of a quick sort of orientation of like, hold on, I just had it. Yeah, like how it's going to feel. So the car wash opens tonight and it faces the triangle or, the triangle.
Think of San Miguel's building, the power company.
Right.
Very, very similar to that, just my door placement's a lot different.
And the door is facing Blair or?
One is facing Blair, the other one is facing 9.
Yeah. Okay.
Blair Street is primarily used to pull in my rollback because that's the length of the building is that way to be parked inside. So that's why that door is there to be pulled in and out.
Okay, I see it.
So with respect to business hours, our town noise ordinance just limits noises after 10 PM. Are there other limitations in BPL? Or is there precedent for limiting business hours for light industrial? I guess that's a question for Lucy or Clay, but I wouldn't expect you guys to know that off the top of your head.
And I do not, Mr. Mayor. I apologize.
That's okay.
In that, when the BP got approved last time, it did stay in there from 8 AM to 8 PM. I will from time to time when there's an emergency, a paper phone call, and it's just an accident. Sometimes it's 2 in the morning and I'll have to pull out real quick and then I'll leave. That would be the only thing after hours, but as far as mechanics goes, it's usually 9 to 5. That's my hours that I'm open.
Oh, trustees, any other questions or comments?
Okay.
Sorry. So at this time, if there aren't any other questions or comments, we should start discussing decisions.
Right.
We have a few options here. We have the option to reject it. We have the option to approve it. We have the option to approve it with the conditions. We have the option to approve it with modified conditions, or we could also table.
I want to go to that idea of approving with the modified conditions. Would those be the conditions that we were just the 8 versus the 11 that were just presented to us by?
Or if we wanted to modify that and add to it. Or take away, right?
Yeah.
Either way.
And Tyler?
I was actually, I would like to make a motion to approve it with the conditions stated.
I would request that we consider removing the parking condition.
Yes, actually, I apologize. That is one that I'm not sure that we can support. So I would make I would change my motion to approving the rezoning with all of the conditions listed except for the parking condition.
I will second that.
Before we do roll call, I just had one other question for the trustees, which is in the community planning strategies memo, they included a number of other potential stipulations we could include that seemed a little more broad, like if the shop wasn't utilized for a year, the zoning would revert, or there was another one that said if the construction didn't begin by a certain time, the zoning would revert. Did anybody have any questions, comments, or suggestions related to any of those? Or are we happy just with the scope of the planning commission?
It was, I'm sorry, it was my understanding that that was already, and Lucy, maybe you can help, but I was under the impression that that already happened with the L, that it did revert if it wasn't used, but correct me if I'm wrong. Because we, at the planning commission, we did discuss that, and the way we read it was that it would revert sort of automatically because of the previous verbiage.
Clearly, Lucy?
Yeah, the way I understand it, that what's listed is in the codes. But what you can do is you can modify those times. So if the mechanic shop has not begun within 90 days of the identified deadline, then it would revert. And if the approved use is discontinued for a period exceeding 1 year, then it would revert. But you all have the opportunity to change those timelines.
Got it. Okay, so we do have a motion and a second on the table. I just wanted to clarify that we're all aware of the rest of the contents of the memo we received. I suppose we should now do a roll call.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Cranker.
Oh, hold up. Sorry, Jim. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to be the fly in the ointment. Having this been said, has the applicant, did he indicate earlier that he had not read this?
He indicated that he hadn't read those revisions to the conditions, and then I went through them, and he didn't express a concern with the revisions other than the overnight parking, which he mentioned in his opening comment. Is that fair?
I think there's another comment about the time building to be built within 90 days.
Which we didn't change anything in the code with respect to that or add that as I mean, if the code already includes that condition.
Only issue that I have is I have no control of when material is going to be sent up here.
Yeah. Lucy, can we clarify that issue?
Yes. Let me see here. So section 16 for 590 other standards states, in approving a limited overlay zone designated on any land, the Board of Trustees may add such standards and conditions as they may deem necessary to adequately protect properties and surrounding the specific parcels being rezoned, including a time limit for the commencement of the use of the property is authorized by the rezoning. 90 days said after time limit has expired without the commencement of the approved use, the land shall automatically, without further public hearing, be returned to its previous zoning classification before the limited overlay zone designation was granted unless an extension of said time limit is authorized by the Board of Trustees. If the approved use is discontinued for a period exceeding 1 year, the land shall automatically, without further public hearing, be returned to its previous zoning classification before the limited overlay designation is granted unless an extension of time beyond the 1 year limit is authorized by the Board of Trustees prior to the expiration of the time period. So that's what it says in the codes.
Would we need to authorize, I mean, but we could, would we be able to hear this in another meeting to authorize an extension if for some reason building supplies couldn't get here, or is that something we would have to do in this meeting?
So just a quick clarification before we run down like a rabbit hole. It says if it hasn't begun, if the mechanic shop has not begun within 90 days of the identified deadline, but I don't see a specific identified deadline.
When I was listening to Lucy, it said that the trustees may impose a deadline.
So if we don't impose a deadline, that 90-day period doesn't apply. Is that correct? And we haven't suggested imposing a deadline. So that 90-day period doesn't apply. Is how we're going to make this decision based on the idea that the motion didn't include the 90-day deadline. Is that clear and fair to everybody?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I would say.
Just as a point of process, I would just suggest that that if you want to change a motion that's been made and seconded, you should have the second and the motion withdrawn by the people that did it and then restate the motion, just so it's clear for the record, because at this point, I think all the discussion, which is good discussion to have, is going to kind of muddy the record here. And it's making it clear for the public and staff exactly what the motion is, I think is the best course of action.
Sure. My understanding was that we didn't change anything in the motion or the second. We were just clarifying that we didn't have a 90-day deadline or a deadline that was subject to that 90-day reversion included within the substance of what we were talking about. So it was more clarification than any type of change.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, if everybody else is clear on it, I mean, I could be the only confused person in the room. So
why don't we just
a suggestion?
It's easy enough for us to just do it again.
And how about, since there's this opportunity, I just wanted to add a little to the discussion. I'm not going to change my mind, but I don't think we've necessarily, we can express support or not, but I want to acknowledge that if we approve this, that it won't necessarily make all the neighbors happy. But my thinking in approving it is that this is a year-round business in Silverton, and it is filling an important need for our community. And, as we work on these zoning issues, it obviously, like to Dana's point, it takes us to the bigger question of the master plan, but we kind of can't go there every time these zoning questions come to us, because we have what we have in front of us and we have what's available to us to make the current decision that's on the table. And so I think this one came to us with the planning commission's recommendation. There's some neighborhood opposition, but there's also significant neighborhood support for it. And so that's sort of my thinking behind making the decision tonight.
And I apologize for allowing the discussion and the motion process to get muddy. If I may request, based on Clay's suggestion, that the motion and the second be rescinded and then remade. I think we're making the same exact thing, but at least our vote will be very close in proximity to the motion and second, so that everybody knows what they're voting. So Tyler and
Absolutely.
Jim.
I would be happy to rescind my motion. If Jim doesn't need to take back his second, I will make a new motion. I would to make a motion to approve the zoning of the Barger lot with the conditions specified, except for the parking condition.
Second. Thank you all.
Paul?
Thank you.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Krink?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Bierman?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you. Thank you, Wayne. And
Yes.
I'm confident you all be good neighbors.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thank you all for that discussion.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Clay, is there anything else we need to wrap that up before we move on to our next agenda item?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think it's better now and clear. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, so moving to new business 4C, consideration to forego Silverton's direct payments, the opioid settlement, and redirect funds to its region. Gloria, are you up for giving a quick overview, or should we just summarize the memo?
Sure. Just a quick overview that we had signed on to receive opioid settlement payments. They are a nominal amount of payment per year. So our suggestion is to redirect funds to the regional opioid effort, which includes there's a contract in your packet that outlines the different entities that are part of that contract.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions or comments related to this? And for the public knowledge, we're talking about it's about $97.86 for 1 year, and over 18 years, we would expect to get $870.21. So the request is to redirect that to the larger group of organizations working on this.
I'll make a motion to opt out of Silverton's direct payments for the opioid settlements and for the funds to be redirected to our region.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis?
Yes.
Trustee Krink?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Bierman?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda, new business 4D, consideration to amend the intergovernmental agreement of services between the town and the county.
So I can speak to this one as well. This is the splitting of our planning department with San Juan County. So this would just, we have our intergovernmental agreement, which splits it 50-50. And as of June 14th, we would be responsible for our own planning departments.
Thank you very much. Any trustee questions, comments, or discussion?
Is this a change with the current staffing in the planning department? Is this what, like, or has this been in the planning for a while?
My understanding is Planner Adair resigned as town planner, is continuing on as county planner. Our intergovernmental agreement said we split costs 50-50, I believe 50-50, but we split costs. And the revision is to make our two planning departments independent from a cost perspective. So we'll be responsible for the services we retain for planning, and the county will be independently responsible for their own.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think that this is a good idea. I think that there's been so much development in town and in the county that having, separating them and then also separating our liability is probably in our best interest.
Does it simplify things?
Yeah, and having a planner that
eventually,
yeah, having a planner that was tied to both of them, I think it at this point too much work. And if we need to go back in the future, we can, but I think this clarifies it right now. Is that about right, Gloria?
Yes, that is correct. It is a 50-50 split as well, as Shane's point.
Should I make a motion?
Sure.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the amendment letter to the 2022 Town of Silverton, San Juan County Governmental Services Agreement defining the cost split of the planning department.
Second.
You. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Cranker.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 5, approval of consent agenda items. In this instance, I believe there's a handful of items included in the consent agenda that Gloria wanted to provide context around.
Sure, and I'm really here to answer any questions, but I did put in an updated sales tax, which looks like we're leveling out a little bit. But we are still, I wanted to point out, we're still $161,000 over last year to date on sales tax. So right now we are looking good, but also expecting that to level out here. We did post for a housing coordinator position. This is grant funded for our Zanoni grant, the 1271 grant that we received from DOLA. And then we did receive 2 grants with the tourism board. And then I wanted to point out too that the farmers market special event application is in here. We had them go through a special event application, even though they are going to be operating at Harmony Park, which is technically a private park, in order for them to get their vendor price, instead of having each one pay the full business license. Since they are being displaced from operating at Columbine Park, we put in a special event application here.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Do the trustees have any concerns about, oh yeah, Matt?
There's one more thing I'd like to add. We do have some checks coming in that are not on the accounts payable list. That's our last minute Main Street Open for Business grant reimbursements. So we'll be making those checks out tomorrow. All that money is already earmarked because it's grant money.
Got it. Thank you.
And there's a really strong letter.
There's a really strong letter of thanks from
Jeff Derry and the Center for Snow and Avalanche Studies.
So unless there's any other questions or clarifications, I would consider a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Cranky.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion to pass the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda, number 6, is staff reports. I would add, and we do have a handful of specific items called out underneath that. I guess overall, was there any besides the A, B, and C in section 6, are there things that staff would like to point out or call out of their reports or any questions from trustees before we start with Kindle deck update memo?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, celebrating Gloria's 1-year work anniversary, as it's noted in the staff report. Just a real kudos to what the staff is doing, the amazing things that have been happening in town hall, how everybody's working together and really raising the game. And so I just want to make sure we note that. And I just want to express my thanks to all of them. There's been lots of ups and downs and sicknesses and illnesses and personal needs and crises, and still they're just really raising the game. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. All right. So 6A, Kindle deck update memo.
So, yeah, I think these three were intended to really just be updates. I'd be happy to field any questions pertaining to any of the topics discussed. And I can briefly touch on each one. Kindle deck, we're looking at absorbing that into a larger OREC grant. We've been collaborating with San Juan Development Association. They have some rather large grants available, and we think it may be a better fit to take the project home. And as we're looking at it, because we don't have a finished plan at this point, working that in with the larger picture with DHM and trying to utilize some available grant funding. In addition to looking at some other projects with Columbine Park landscaping, which is a significant expense. It's not yet budgeted. Renovation to the Memorial Park gazebo and some of the surrounding infrastructure, as well as the bathrooms and the playground over there as well. So any questions regarding the Kindle deck or OREC grant update, I'd be happy to field, and then we can kind of move on to the next one.
What's the deadline on that grant? Like, what's the?
That would be a great question for Beth. I'm not sure if Gloria knows off the top of her head, but I believe it's approaching.
Yeah, it's June 29th.
Okay.
And we do have Beth on as well. Hi, Beth. Beth, you're currently muted.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I think Gloria answered the question, but happy to also jump in if you have any more questions with the grant.
So no real questions about the grant, just wait, say the date again.
The grant is actually due on June 30th.
Okay.
It will be a rolling grant, but we want to definitely meet the first deadline as it is going to be very competitive. So that'll put us on track for the first deadline.
Awesome. Yeah, so I guess I was just looking at like formulating a plan B if that grant works. It sounds like it's a great idea and it fits really well with the needs of the community. And then maybe just potentially looking into other ways of like Kindle without the deck or that full facility use, I think is just, it's been tricky. So I don't know if there's like another way to look at that.
Yeah, I think right now this is a really good option, especially with the Kindle deck. It seems really aligned to what they're looking at, having ways to expand our outdoor recreation industries. So looking at Kendall Mountain and seeing how we can bring more activity over there. So I think we do have a really good spot with it. And, let's see what happens with that before start strategizing what else we'll need to go after.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't think we should start doing a plan B now. It just seemed like if the deadline was going to be really pushed back or something, then, but yeah, it sounds like we'll know fairly soon and then we can hopefully hear a lot of good news. That's it.
Awesome. Shall we move on to the Columbine Park update memo?
Sure. So, again, pretty self-explanatory. I was able to collaborate and get a lot of feedback since our last meeting on Columbine Park with members of the Planning Commission and some of the historians we have in town who really kind of specialize in that aesthetic. And we've made some minor changes that add up to a pretty significant change to the building design, staying inside the constraints of the budget to the best of our ability. We don't anticipate any change to the budget, and we've been able to better address some of the concerns concerning the historic integrity of the building. There is a rendering attached as well. Staff at least is really pleased with the way it came out. We think it's a really nice compromise between that option A and option B. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or, receive any input directly from the trustees.
Great job with the collaboration.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
Absolutely. And we feel at this point, I've spoken directly with Jim Miller, who represents the Planning Commission and Fritz and Fetch and kind of all the players involved in this. And everyone seems really satisfied with where we've landed. And we didn't receive any negative feedback during the comment period or any recommendations at all, just support. So we're really pleased. And I think we've really got everybody on board at this point. So.
That's really good.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that, what Sally said for you, Todd. It just, thanks for wading through that, negotiating and working through that and working with all the players and just making sure we got something that was what you were being asked for. And I just really appreciate you figuring that out. I did have one question on the design. How you feel about it regarding ongoing maintenance, and if this will still hit the nice sweet spot on, cost effectiveness for maintaining it. But overall, I just was really excited to see what you were able to work through.
I'm personally and professionally thrilled with the outcome. I think from a maintenance perspective, this is going to be really manageable. We've avoided things like turn posts and some of the more elaborate, trim finishes and stuff like that, which is really where the difficulty in maintenance comes in. That shed roof has been greatly reduced. And we are pretty confident, we won't know till it's actually built, but we're pretty confident snow's just gonna kind of do what it's intended to do on that roof, which is load up a little bit and then just start plopping off the side, not kind of shoot over at the neighbors. Some of the stuff, I think Chris Clemens and Mountain Grade did an excellent job of replicating an aesthetic, but using materials that are durable. So it's actually going to be like a concrete, siding product that's actually made to replicate wood, will have wood grain in it, but is going to be much more durable, kind of like a hardy plank, something like that. So I think we've really struck a nice balance of maintenance and aesthetic. And I think the building's going to fit right in on Blair Street.
Well, you should be proud. So thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. And I think this one's you too. The next one is cemetery update memo.
Yeah, so I'm sure most of you remember this mainly went to the county. I'm not sure we ever discussed it in this forum. But we had some volunteers who were removing sections of the cemetery fence, which was a long-going request of the Historic Society and the cemetery board. And kind of when we started initiating that removal with the volunteers, we received some concerns from community members. So we kind of halted and took some time to gather all that input. And I think what we've landed on here after discussing it in depth with the cemetery board is a pretty reasonable compromise, which is, it's a very sensitive topic discussing the cemetery. There's a lot of loved ones up there, and some community members really felt that having a fence was appropriate. And there were also concerns kind of counter to that where, it's a really popular animal migration route. We should do more to kind of leave it open. The balance we've struck here is, utilizing the existing footers and fence posts as much as possible, painting them color that's not going to stand out so much. So maybe that aesthetic is minimized, and including multiple wildlife gates that can be opened and closed with seasonal migration. And I feel we've really struck a balance, or as best of a balance as we can in that compromise. So we'll be looking to move that project forward. The volunteers are going to resume, I believe, next month, the middle of next month. And then Parks and Rec will start doing their part, painting posts and ordering materials. And we hope to have the fence back up with the wildlife gates by summer of 2023.
Parks, Rec and Facilities / diplomat.
Mediator.
Yeah. Compromise seeker.
And no one is 1,000% happy with the outcome, but I think that's what a good compromise is, and everyone is pleased enough.
Great. Thank you, Todd. The next item on our agenda, if there aren't any other trustee comments or questions, is committee reports. First is the Planning Commission meeting. We just covered a good chunk of probably, but Tyler or Jim could give us the rest of the overview. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I think, Jim, I think you missed the last one, didn't you?
I did. I had a family engagement and I couldn't attend, so I'm gonna.
No,
over to you.
It was okay. I tried to hold it down for us. It was a good one. So we had the meeting started with community builders. They came and presented what they've been working on up until this point to make sure that the planning commission's on the same page. We had an application submitted to us as the historical review overlay district for a new building that will be going between High Noon Hamburgers and the Lookout Shop. And the applicant really put in a lot of work to make it fit in with what Blair Street may have looked like. He took a lot of older pictures and he put a lot of that into the design for the building that he would like to build there. And so that was approved unanimously after reviewing and that was just for the historical overlay review. Then we also went over the Rainbow Garage, which is at the TNT building, as the AROD, as the architectural review board. And that they also had their plan passed. It was a split vote, but that also went through. And then finally we had Lane's application one more time revisited, and that was also approved unanimously. And I will say that the historical review and the architectural review boards, that all we were there to do was to make sure that their designs were going to fit in with those districts. And we'll be seeing a lot more of them at our planning commission meetings moving forward, and we'll keep you up to date on how those buildings are progressing.
Thank you, Tyler.
Great.
Absolutely.
All right. And then we also had an ordinance and personnel committee meeting on June 23rd. It started out with a presentation from representatives of our public health department, suggesting that we consider a few revisions to our current tobacco ordinance. A lot of the discussion was focused around the licensing fee. And I think they're going to prepare a presentation and recommendation for the board to consider in the near future. We also talked about updating the town lighting ordinance to be aligned with the dark sky initiative that's been presented to us that we were supportive of. And I think we'll be seeing that a few meetings from now as well. And then we spent some time talking about the special events ordinance and guide. The special event ordinance seems to be working well, the guide not so much. So town staff have proposed to kind of start from scratch on the guide. As people have been working through it, it's just been a very complex document and process, and it didn't serve the intended purpose of streamlining and clarifying the event process. And so we do have the ordinance in place. There is still some internal structure around special events, but the guide itself is going to get an overhaul. And then I believe we did have a handful of new business items they brought up, but I'm going to kick that over to Sally if you have notes on it.
Just a few. We talked about the building code adopting the 2015 version with some notes from Bill McDougall.
Right.
As you look at that.
Right. Yeah, so there was discussion to go from the 2008 building code to the 2015 building code. And that also is going to be presented to the board in the meeting in the near future.
And that's all I have.
Cool. I guess the only other note is that that committee includes Jim, Sally, and myself, but Jeff is so amped about being on the board that he showed up for a 2:30 midweek meeting.
Gloria invited me yesterday.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I did want to add, one of the things, during the health department, they did a great presentation. Our local health officials, limiting the premises as far as selling tobacco from 500 feet from youth areas to now 1,000 feet. We also discussed the age of 18 now up to 21 to work with the federal guidelines. And then really was about streamlining the special event permitting process, because the way it's been, not the most user friendly, but we're going to get there. I thought
Awesome
it was good,
additions.
good points.
Nice. Thank you, Jim. All right. Next we have trustee reports. Let's say all the trustees. Yeah, Jim?
I just have one comment, and this is about Gloria. Regardless of 1 year, she's kicking ass. She's doing a great job. But this woman is so dedicated. She's running a fever, and she's still conducting this meeting. Good for you, Gloria. We love you. This town loves you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Gloria. All right, so now we'll move on to continued business. 9A, consideration to approve ordinance number 2022-08, an emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton, Colorado, approving a lease purchase financing to provide funds to finance the construction and equipping of certain capital improvements to Columbine Park, and in connection therewith, authorizing and approving a site lease, a lease purchase agreement, an escrow agreement, and other documentation related to the financing, and providing other details and parameters and authorization in connection with the financing.
Oh, God.
Do we have Troy on again, or is this, or are you fielding our questions on this one?
I'm going to try and field your questions, but I did provide you with a follow-up email from Troy regarding it's additional funds that he added to the final lease purchase and wanted to make sure that that was okay with you all going forward. And I'm sorry, I don't have it right here in front of me.
It's okay. I just had one pretty material concern. When we received the presentation at the last meeting, we opted for this loan, this lease purchase set of terms significantly because of the interest rate, and interest rates did go up a lot since our last meeting. And I guess I wasn't familiar that in this setting, it wasn't like a commitment letter or a bid they were providing us. It was just a general idea of what terms they were going to provide. And it sounds like even since maybe the memo was written and included in our packet, we're expecting like a 4.25 to 4.65% interest rate, up from 3.75. But then there was a reference in the memo that we received from Troy today that said it was closer to 5.
Yeah, so, and that was one thing that we had thought it was locked in. But then after talking to Troy, it's not locked in until we sign all the agreements after the ordinance. And that's kind of why we're presenting an emergency ordinance so that we can get that rate as low as possible. And they don't anticipate it to go above 5% at this point.
Gotcha. And I know that we're like in a rush to get this, but is it worth rebidding this now that the one that had the lowest interest rate is now above most of the other proposed initial interest rates? And I'd note that I did a quick math. It's very rough, but it looks like this increase in interest rate from what we thought we were getting is going to cost $40,000 to $60,000 over the life of the loan, which is 10 years. So we're only looking at $4,000 to $6,000 more per year, but over the full term of this, that is a pretty material amount of money for, interest rates going up in a week.
At this point, I wouldn't recommend rebidding because that was not Troy's recommendation, but it's certainly up for your discretion.
Jim, did you have your hand up?
I did. Two things. One was the interest rate, and this was sent to us around 6:50 this evening, just as a reference for everyone attending tonight. And that interest rate did go up. I don't know, and I agree with Gloria. I don't know if there's enough time to put it back out, because I think we have, between the time of tonight and putting it back out, I think the interest rates are going to go up again.
There's also the time frame of being able to pay out the work that's already been done. So we did have $130,000 set aside, and we are going through that pretty quickly. So to be able to keep on schedule, I would say to keep going with this, but I can certainly ask him if he thinks that we could get a lower interest rate. If that's something that you wanted to use as a conditional approval for the ordinance.
If interest rates do go down, it's 10 years, but if interest rates did go down in the next year, is this something we could look at refinancing?
I think he said at the last meeting that there was no prepayment penalty. Can we confirm that? Because if that's the case, we can just refinance. Right?
Right.
And I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable answering that right now because I don't know off the top of my head.
Fair enough.
I think that was in the terms that he had given us, was there wasn't a prepayment penalty after. Actually, that's not true.
After 1 year, right?
There was a timeline, but it expired fairly quickly. I'm sorry, I thought I had it, but I don't. My mistake.
I'm comfortable moving forward with this.
And they're also using the collateral of the project.
Yeah,
that was it. It was a fixed rate and then the collateral of the project, which I understand.
Right.
The other two things that are being.
Mhm.
So it sounds like we should just clarify that what the time period is for prepayment, but everybody's taking staff recommendation that it probably needs to happen as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Cool. Would someone like to make a motion?
Kind of a long one.
With that addition.
Let me see something quick. I think that. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. I mean, I'll read it if nobody else wants to, and then you can just say so moved.
I can read it. I'll make a motion to adopt emergency ordinance 2022-08, an emergency ordinance of the town of Silverton, Colorado, approving a lease purchase financing to provide funds to finance the construction and equipping of certain capital improvements to Columbine Park, and in connection therewith, authorizing and approving a site lease, a lease purchase agreement, an escrow agreement, and other documentation relating to the financing, and providing other details and parameters and authorization in connection with the financing. With the clarification of the time frame in which, what's the word for
Repay.
that? We repay it
Without penalty.
Without penalty.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Finger.
Yes.
Trustee Harper.
Yes.
Trustee Bierman.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, new business 9B, consideration to rescind ordinance 2022-07, an emergency ordinance establishing a stage 2 municipal fire ban. And I believe there is a little bit of context here, which is that we're anticipating the stage 1 fire ban to also be rescinded on Friday. And I think we had a question for Clay, whether we could conditionally, was that we could rescind this ordinance and conditionally rescind the stage 1 ordinance on Friday so that we don't have to have a special meeting on Friday to match the county's rescinding of the stage 1 fire ban, or if there's some way to manage that better.
I think if you're gonna rescind, Mr. Mayor, and then if you guys decide to make a motion to rescind stage 2 fire ban and rescind stage 1 fire ban contingent on the county's decision to rescind the same, then that would be a fine motion to make.
Okay, and is that okay, even though there wasn't included in our public notice that we would be considering rescinding the stage 1 fire ban?
I think so, Mr. Mayor. They were done as emergency ordinances based on conditions for the health, safety, and welfare of the community. I think you can unwrap it the same way you put it in place.
Okay, great. And then Gloria, can I just confirm that I didn't misstate the expectation of rescinding the stage 1 fire ban on Friday?
That was correct. That's what we had discussed earlier. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So would someone like to make a motion to rescind ordinance 2022-07, emergency ordinance establishing a stage 2 municipal fire ban, as well as conditionally rescinding whatever the ordinance number was for stage 1 fire ban if the county rescinds their stage 1 fire ban on Friday?
So
Yeah,
moved.
Clay wants to fix that.
Go ahead.
Oh, what do you recommend, Clay?
Oh, I mean, that's fine. If you think, I was just going to say you could rescind with, instead of making it conditional, you can just state that you're making a motion to rescind your fire bans at the time contemporaneously with the decision of the county. So that's not, so if they don't do it, then you don't have to like go back and say, okay, well, that the condition wasn't met. Just we make a motion to rescind our stage 2 restriction tonight and stage 1 contemporaneous with the county's decision to rescind the same.
That sounds smarter. Dana, would you like to rescind your motion?
I rescind my motion.
Thank you. Let's see. So would someone else like to say what Clay said? Would someone like to make a motion to rescind ordinance 2022-07 and 2022-06 in line with the county making those same motions to, I missed it, Clay, I'm sorry. Can you help us?
I think, Mr. Mayor, the motion might sound something like this. I move to rescind the current ordinance for stage 2 fire ban and move to rescind the stage 1, the ordinance for the stage 1 fire ban contemporaneous with the county's decision to rescind the same.
Dana?
Temporary.
So moved?
I think
Okay.
you got it. I can try it.
Okay, Sally, go for it.
You guys use your own words, you know.
You don't have to be a
Make it-
trustee to.
Okay.
Yeah, you can make it up, something along those lines. I shouldn't have even stopped you. I like the condition was fine. I just don't want you guys to have to go like unwinding it if they don't do it.
Okay. Well, if you got it.
I don't know. I'll give it a go. Let's make this fun, guys.
I'll make a motion to rescind the current
Ordinance,
2022-07,
an emergency ordinance
establishing a stage 2 municipal fire ban
and I'll move to rescind the stage 1
ordinance
contemporaneous with the county as they rescind the same.
Second.
Thank you.
Clay's like,
Really good.
It's like,
C minus.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Greenberg.
Yes.
Trustee Harvard.
Yeah, contemporaneously, yes.
Trustee Guerrero.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Barty.
yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, so Gloria, I hate to bother you, but I have one quick clarification in our PDF packet. Oh, never mind. Yeah. In our PDF packet, we've got never mind. It's fine. It's just the subject in the memo for this next item has a typo. So we're good. So the next item in our continued business 9C is consideration to approve amended 4th of July town special event application to allow OHVs and parade. I'll note that we did receive a number of citizen emails opposed to this. We also heard Jimmy Keen's comment in favor of it. Can we see on the attendee list if Patty Daly's on, who's the event organizer? Well, so it looks like Nathan's got a comment, so perhaps we can promote Nathan.
Hi there, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Unfortunately, my video is not going to be on. I'm quarantined at the moment. But Patty Daly is out of town at this point. She did ask me to present for her. She is a-okay with allowing OHVs on the parade route. And currently we don't have a ordinance in place to either approve or deny. It is up to the Board of Trustees, either to allow them or not. Excuse me. And if y'all have any questions about the current route or where the staging areas would be, I'd be more than happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Here we go.
Here we go, trustees.
Nathan, I'll go ahead and start. I guess just in this overview, it talks about local OHV groups. Is this a limited number? Is this open to anyone? How will someone be able to join if they would like to in their OHV?
Well, for any parade participant, they do have to go through Patty Daly, but currently we only have Mr. Jimmy Keen requesting access to pass out American flags from his OHV, as well as Jim Loki and his OHV group do want to join in as well. He does support a limited route option for this, but there has been no other interest, and Patty does want to keep it local only.
So with Jim Loki and group, like does group have a definition, or is it just in terms of numbers, or?
Currently, we don't have that clarification on how many. We aren't expecting dozens of them to join. In previous years, it's been limited to less than a dozen OHVs. and we expect the same.
Thank you. Dana?
Yeah, I know we got a lot of emails and we some for, some against, and we had heard from Mr. Keen. My perspective and just thinking about it is we allow a lot of things for a parade that we never allow in a normal occasion. And I just not incredibly convinced that everybody all of a sudden will be very confused that now you can drive an OHV anywhere in town if we just have some of them for a parade. So I think it's a great compromise. I think it's a very low cost compromise, and I don't really see a lot of problems with it, in the same way we might allow horses, dog parades, kids on bikes in the middle of Main Street, as Mr. Keen said, unlicensed vehicles at times. So I think it's a great compromise, and I don't think we have to feel so anxious about this from my perspective.
And following up on Dana's perspective, if we do need to differentiate, most of the OHVs will be decorated for 4th of July. But if we need to differentiate between just a tourist OHV versus the parade OHVs, we can do that as well with a sticker or colorful tape on the OHV, so they can differentiate that with law enforcement.
Nathan, that brings up a good question. I did have a question with the special event packet, and this was raised to us by email, that if OHVs are allowed in town, it creates a more complicated law enforcement issue for the parade. I was wondering if Sheriff Conrad had spoken to this at all in regards to the special event application, or if there was any other comment there.
Unfortunately, I have been pretty down and out lately.
Nathan, I can take this one.
Thank you, Gloria.
I did speak with Sheriff Conrad. He is comfortable with OHVs in the parade as long as they're trailered there and out.
Thank you.
Jim? So essentially, the OHVs would be considered a parade float? That's
correct.
That's my interpretation. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Nathan. And I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Feel better, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have to echo some of what Dana said, where like the way that Jimmy presented the use of his OHV to trailer to and from the starting area, when originally the poker run was brought up, an idea of compromise was trailer in there, having everyone go in and out as a group. It seems like this is a group following a very designated route, and we can definitely control. I read all the emails opposed to it, and I have to agree that I don't see this as like a free fall on town. And I mean, the biggest thing for me that Nathan helped answer was like the number. I mean, I think if you could sign up on that day to bring your OHV into town, it was like a little bit of a glory run to like run down Main Street in your OHV. Like I wouldn't be as keen to that, but to have people who could maybe participate in the float, who otherwise couldn't. I think parades are driven, and are successful by the number of people who attend. And so to make a group that can't attend seems silly, or, like my brother being in a wheelchair, like if he wanted, if he was in town, we wanted to ride an OHV down Main Street, like that would be important to me. So I have to say that I do think that this is a small compromise that is gonna make some people upset, but I have confidence that if the event organizers feel okay with it and we can really try to control it, as making them floats, it seems like it's really not a terrible thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I gave my opinion on this pretty thoroughly during the poker run discussion, which was that if they had proposed an event with a closed circuit, sufficient oversight, approval from the sheriff, specific times, I think that those special events if the organizer's taking responsibility for it and it's executed well, and it's not gonna create the likelihood of mass chaos or safety concerns, like, I think it makes sense. And I'd like to be consistent with what I said then. I'm sympathetic with the concerns people have expressed about having OHVs in the parade. And I apologize to them that I think the right thing to do here is to allow them in this parade. I think it's consistent. We don't normally allow fireworks in town. We don't normally request that jets do low overhead flybys. We don't normally allow floats down Main Street. I see this as pretty similar to closing Main Street for the Hard Rock 100. It's an exceptional thing. If it's done in a controlled, safe way, I think it's fine.
It puts a lot of ownership on this being the first break of the ban to do this successfully so that, like you're saying, other events that if they're more organized could maybe follow suit. But, it's like if this were to totally blow up in our face, then we'd probably never, then it'd be an easy decision from here on out.
And I do think it's even more helpful as a compromise that it's proposed to be limited to local groups.
Yeah, I think if Patty's okay with it and she feels like it's doable on her end and the parade can be fun for everybody, and I echo everything that you guys have said. And I know it is going to be upsetting for a little while, but it sure has been really peaceful in Silverton, and we've had such a nice start to the summer. And I just think this is just such a limited experience, and it's so special, and it's closed loop, like Shane said. And yeah, I hope everyone can participate in a really festive way and make it look really cool and have fun on the 4th of July.
And I would like to add, if anyone wants to participate in the parade that's local, to contact Patty Daly directly at silvertonparade@yahoo.com, and she'll be more than happy to work with you.
I was just going to add that my biggest concern was whether or not the sheriff would support it. And, based on what some of the folks had mentioned in all of the letters about, could cause confusion, but Sheriff Conrad approves it, and I'm behind it. If he doesn't think it's going to create a problem, then I can totally support this. I think it's an important day to a lot of folks, and they want to express themselves, and I think it's an easy thing to do. And then for all the other reasons that everybody else here has already said, it's time limited, it's on a route, it's controlled, and I think that it's an easy thing to get behind.
I was just gonna say something to make it really clear and transparent of my line of thinking is that we're not opening the town up to OHVs on the 4th of July. We're just allowing OHVs to operate as an unlicensed vehicle as a float in the parade.
Nice.
As we do any other vehicle.
Right, similar to we're not opening up town of Silverton to everybody having fireworks shows for the next 30 days or something.
Just to make that very clear.
That's a really good way to say it.
So I guess I just keep thinking about a tractor, a farm tractor. It's I'm seeing it.
Want to drive a tractor in the parade?
I mean, if I had one.
Yeah.
A skid steer. I would see it exactly. It'd be the same. If they want to drive a skid steer down Main Street as a freight float.
Snowplow. We've got all kinds of things
Got all
to
sorts.
go down the street.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll fall on the sword. I'll make a motion to approve the amended special events application for the inclusion of local OHVs as parade floats with the Silverton parade.
Second.
Trustee Davis. Yes. Trustee Cranker.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
Yerma.
Yes.
Trustee George.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney.
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And then this was what I was struggling with before. In our packet, there's one more memo that wasn't included in the agenda, and I'm just clarifying that that is an accident.
Or on my part.
Yeah, so that was an accident.
Okay,
You'll be
Okay.
seeing that soon, next meeting.
okay, cool.
That's, on the current packet, so you download the old version because I updated it Friday when I noticed a mistake.
All right, no worries.
And then,
Um,
sorry, and then page 90 with the farmer's market, we were able to approve that all as one. Because on page 91, there is like a special farmer's market.
That's just the header for the 4th of July parade memo. It just was the typo. That's also what I would come.
Oh, okay.
Farmer's market was included in the consent agenda, and then the memo just had a typo saying farmer's market, even though it's the 4th of July parade.
There's a motion, there is a motion or direction on page 91 for the farmer's market. I just wanted to double check that.
I'll pull that up again.
And for clarification, I was working with Matt to get the corrected information there. The farmers market, Gloria did decide to put in the consent agenda. So the motion or direction was effectively null and void once you approve the consent agenda.
Or I would just say that differently, that it was approved based on it being included in the consent agenda. Cool. So that was the last substantive item on the agenda. So now we'll move to our closing public comment. We do not have anyone here in person. So if anyone who's attending on Zoom would like to make a comment, please click the raise hand button. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. The time is now 9:05 p.m. and I adjourn this meeting. I look forward to seeing you all at our next meeting on July 11th.
Really good meeting, you guys.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night, good meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Feel better.
Feel better, Gloria.
Oh, man.
I'm on it.
Bye.